The rain came down hard, a cold, angry curtain over the red Georgia clay. Thunder rumbled in the distance like a warning. The mourners stood under black umbrellas, eyes downcast, hands clasped. The preacher's voice strained over the wind, reading verses that fluttered like paper ghosts into the storm. But she wasn't listening, Nia. Ransom stood at the edge of the open grave, her Sunday dress soaked through. Clinging to her frame like it, too, was grieving. Her hands trembled around a bouquet of white Lila-Malik's favorite. One by one, petals slipped from the stems, vanishing into the mud. Then came the scream, "No, no, no, he's not dead." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone stepped back. Someone whispered, "Let her be, Lord." Nia dropped to her knees, clutching the glossy wooden coffin as if she could pull her son back through it. Her cries cracked the air, raw and deep like they came from someplace older than sorrow. "He's not dead," she whispered again, forehead pressed to the lid. "That's not my baby. They didn't even let me see him. They just told me. Told me to believe it. Told me to sign." Rainwater streamed down her face, blending with tears. A mourner reached for her, hesitated, then stepped back. On the edge of the crowd stood a tall man in a charcoal coat, Elias Rowe. He'd arrived in an unmarked SUV just minutes before the service began, flanked by no one, unannounced, unnoticed, till now. Raindrops collected on his silver-streaked beard as he watched Nia, unmoving. To the others, this scene was a mother, broken by grief. But to Elias, something twisted in his chest. Not pity, not even sorrow, something older. Something like recognition. A man in a pressed black suit, the funeral director, stepped forward. "Ms. Ransom," he said gently, "we need to lower the casket now." "You're not lowering nothing," Nia spat, eyes wild. "You're hiding him. You think this is over?" "But it's not. I know my child. It's not my son in there." She turned to the stunned crowd, voice rising. "Y'all stand here, heads bowed, like you don't see what's happening? Like you don't feel what I feel? This ain't grief. This is a lie." No one moved. No one answered. Elias took a step. Closer, rain soaking through his Italian leather shoes. His eyes never left the casket. Behind them, the preacher fumbled his words. The pallbearers looked to the director. Even the wind seemed to hush for a moment, listening. Nia was quiet now, breathing hard. Her hands slid from the coffin, fingers trembling, knuckles scraped. She didn't look at Aaliyah's butt for a second. He thought she felt him there. A flicker of awareness passed between them, heavy and wordless. The casket began to lower thunder. Cracked again. Elias didn't blink. What kind of truth makes a mother scream at her son's grave? He didn't have the answer, but something deep in his gut whispered, "You need to find out." A week before the funeral, the sky was different. The clouds hung low, but harmless. In the summer air smelled of freshly cut grass and pavement after a light rain. Malik Ransom stood at the front gate of the worn fence outside his mother's house, earbuds in, backpack slung low. He grinned back toward the porch, where Nia leaned against the rail, coffee in hand. "Don't forget the milk." She called, "I got it, Ma, and I ain't forget the cereal this time either." She laughed. "You better not. That almond stuff tastes like sadness." He flashed a peace sign and jogged off down the road, hoodie sleeves pushed up, music thumping in his ears. Just a regular day, just another walk to Johnson's Corner Market. 3 blocks away, but he never came home that night. When the sun dipped and the porch light flickered on, Nia's calls went unanswered. She texted, then called again. By midnight, her fingers were numb from dialing. 3 days later, the sheriff came, found him out by Winslow Swamp. "Looks like he slipped off the trail," he said, not meeting her eyes. Tragic, really. That was all a printed report, a sealed bag with his phone and wallet, and a quick funeral date. No investigation, no answers. No time to question anything. But Nia knew her boy. He was 17, smart as hell, and sweeter than people gave him credit for. He had a sketchbook filled with sneaker designs, colorful, bold, full of sharp angles and street style. His dream was to design for Nike someday. He was tall and lanky, with eyes that crinkled when he smiled and a soft stutter when he got nervous. He walked the long way home just to avoid the sheriff's pickup after it passed him to slowly one. "Too many times people always stare at me like I stole something," he'd once said, half joking. "They stare because they're afraid of what they don't understand," Nia replied. "But you keep walking, baby. Don't ever shrink." Now Nia walked the route he took that day, again and again. Down Jefferson Street, past the broken crossing sign, past Mrs. Ellis's peach tree, to the corner store where no cameras worked the day Malik vanished. The clerk didn't remember seeing him. The register didn't log a purchase. Nia traced every step like a hymn. But something always broke down between the store and the swamp. Malik walked into a storm that hadn't yet begun, and somewhere, from the lies she was fed and the silence she was given, a stranger was starting to listen. The doors all looked the same in Branscombe County white paint, brass knobs, and just enough cold behind them to remind you where you stood. Nia stood at the sheriff's office, hands balled into fists at her sides. The air smelled like bleach and dust. Deputy behind the glass window barely looked up. "I'm here about my son, Malik Ransom," she said. "I need the full autopsy report." The woman tapped her keyboard, clicked something, didn't respond. For 5 long seconds. "That file's been sealed," she finally said. "You'll have to speak with the sheriff. I have spoken to him 3 times. He said it was an accident." "Then that's the official word, ma'am. No eye contact. Sorry for your loss." Nia stared at the glass, breathing slow through her nose. "Did you even see his body?" Long pause. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Outside, the sky was pale, gray, and tight. Nia walked past the row of shops, their window signs flickering. The clerk at Johnson's Market still claimed the store cameras were malfunctioning that day. Coroner wouldn't return her calls. Even the pastor had started avoiding her eyes after Sunday service. "Don't stir the town up," he warned gently last week. "Let the Lord handle it." But God didn't seal evidence reports. People did. She passed her neighbor, Miss Brenda, sweeping her porch. "You doing okay, baby?" Brenda asked, but her eyes darted down the street. "You know how things are. Around here?" "How are they, exactly?" Nia asked, voice sharp. Brenda hesitated, then sighed. "Sometimes peace means not knowing more than you're told." That silence, sweet on the surface, poisonous underneath, was everywhere by. Late afternoon, Nia found herself at Bessie's Diner, a chip-class place where time hadn't moved in 30 years. She sat in the corner booth, untouched coffee in front of her, fingers picking at the sugar packets. The bell over the door jingled. He walked in like he didn't belong, 'cause he didn't. Elias Rowe was all pressed wool and city polish, like a photograph that wandered into a forgotten scrapbook. But he walked to the counter, ordered coffee, and after a moment turned and saw her. He paused, tilted his head. "Ms. Ransom?" She stiffened. "Do I know you?" He approached slowly, respectful. "I was at your son's service," he said. I heard what you said. I haven't been able to forget it." She blinked. Elias hesitated, then lowered his voice just above. A whisper, "Why do you believe your son isn't dead?" The question didn't startle her. What startled her was how ready she was to answer it. The hum of the jet was too smooth, too quiet for the storm churning inside Elias Rowe. He sat alone. Near the back, bourbon untouched in his glass. Through the oval window, the small-town lights of Branscombe faded into the distance dim, spaced out, like the town itself was trying not to be noticed. Rain tapped the glass in slow, steady rhythms. He hadn't planned to speak to Nia Ransom. Wasn't even sure why he attended the funeral in the first place. Guilt, maybe? Or curiosity? Or something heavier? She looked straight through him. Not impressed. Not thankful. Just tired. And rightfully so. Her voice still echoed in his. "Head, that's not my son in there." He closed his eyes, leaned back. Once. Elias Rowe had been the face of visionary capitalism, a darling of the media, building sleek campuses, touting social initiatives. But the cracks had always been there. A viral expose, 5 years ago, had revealed the truth behind one of his companies, a pattern of quietly rejecting black applicants for senior roles. Internal emails leaked. People protested. Hashtags trended. He'd released a statement. apologized publicly. Privately, he said nothing to no one, fired a few people, donated to a civil rights group, quieted the headlines. He told himself he was fixing it. But he'd never sat in a police station and been told your son drowned without proof. He'd never been asked to bury someone he wasn't allowed to see. He'd never seen a woman scream at a coffin, like her own soul was being lowered into the ground. Until now, the flight attendant came by, said something about arrival time. He nodded without hearing. His phone buzzed calendar reminders, stock movement alerts, voicemails from people who didn't care about. BRANSCOMBE. He opened a different app, typed a name, Malik Ransom. No major articles. No autopsy details, not even a photo. 17 years old and already erased. Elias's thumb hovered over his contact list. Then he made a call to someone he hadn't spoken to in years. I need a private investigator, he said, voice low, someone discreet and fast. He paused. This isn't business. The first thing Elias learned, Malik never made it to the swamp alone. The private investigator, Lisa Marin, moved quickly ex-cop, now clean, with connections that still whispered when her name came up. Within 3 days, she sent him grainy, time-stamped footage from a traffic camera at the intersection of Jefferson and Main. Kids walking alone, she said over the call. 4 minutes later, a dark green pickup turns the same corner. No plates on the front. Looks local. Elias stared at the screen. Malik's hoodie fluttered in the breeze. He glanced behind him once, and again before the clip ended. The timestamp was 3:27 p.m. The sheriff's report had marked the swamp discovery at 7:45 p.m. What happened in those 4 hours? Elias asked. Liza exhaled. No clue. Store footage wiped clean. DVR system says corrupted files classic overwrite. Either someone got sloppy or someone knew exactly what they were doing. He asked about the autopsy. She went silent. Family hasn't received a copy. County says it's confidential. That's unusual, especially if it's just an accidental drowning. Back in Branscombe, Naya sat alone in the booth where she first met Elias. The diner was quiet, save for the ticking ceiling fan and the clink of ceramic mugs. He slid into the seat across from her, envelope in hand. I found something, he said. She didn't reach for it. Her fingers remained curled around her cup. You a reporter now? No, he said. Just someone who heard you and couldn't forget it. He placed the photo on the table. Malik on the street, the truck turning after him. Nia stared. Her throat worked, but no words came. Then slowly her jaw clenched. That's Jimmy Weston's truck. His daddy owns the mill. That boy's been riding around like he owns this town since he was 12. Her voice cracked but didn't break. They all told me to calm down, told me to trust the system. Even at the funeral, they told me to shut up and let him go. Looked up, eyes burning, but what if I don't? What if I'm right, and no one wants to say it out loud because it makes things complicated? Elias leaned forward. Then let's make things complicated. The words hung in the air. For the first time, Naya allowed the silence between them to feel like space, not distance. He had dreams, she said quietly. Sketchbooks full of M.O.s. Said he'd buy me a house when Nike gave him his first check. Now they want me to believe he slipped on some moss and drowned? Elias shook his head. I don't believe that either. She reached for the photo. Her hands no longer shook. Then we keep going, she said. Outside, storm clouds gathered again, but this time, so did resolve. Liza's voice crackled through the phone speaker in Elias's hand. There's something else. A name kept popping up while I was asking around. Cameron Spence. Disappeared 6 months ago. 17. White. Lived 2 towns over. Last seen riding his bike near the county line. Elias stood in the corner of the small motel room he'd rented outside Branscombe. Papers were spread across the bed photos. Timelines, printouts, Liza continued. Search parties, news vans, helicopters. Amber alerts blasted all over the state. His face was everywhere. And Malik, Elias asked. She hesitated. Filed under accidental drowning. No state. Alert, no official search. Just a notice in the Branscombe Weekly. The unfairness sank like a weight in Ilias's chest. He glanced at a photo of Malik smiling, holding up a pair of sneakers he designed in marker. Back at the Ransom home, Nia paced the kitchen, the cordless phone pressed tight to her ear. Cameron's mother, she repeated. Speak to her. Are you sure? Elias asked gently. No one wants to talk, Nia said. But maybe she's tired of being lied to, too. They met at a neutral spot in an old church with peeling paint on the edge of town. The sanctuary smelled like lemon oil and dust. Cameron's mother, Rachel Spence, sat in the front pew, her hands clenched in her lap.
Ow.
She wore black, even 6. Months later, Nia sat beside her. They didn't speak for a moment. Then Rachel said, they told me he probably ran away. But I knew better. I called every sheriff, every hospital. Someone listened. That's how the search started. Nia's voice was quiet. They told me he drowned. No search. Just bury him and move on. Rachel looked at her, tears forming. I saw the story, but I didn't see it. Not the way I should have. You weren't supposed to, Nia said. Rachel's eyes dropped to the floor before Cameron went missing. He said he saw something he wasn't supposed. 2, he was scared. Wouldn't say what, just scared. Nia's breath caught. Where? Near Winslow Swamp, Rachel whispered. Same place they say your son was found. Outside, church bells rang once, hollow, echoing to mothers, bound by grief. Now tangled in a deeper truth. The hallway smelled like floor wax and old lies. Elias walked with slow, measured steps behind a reluctant deputy named Holt, who'd been promised an anonymous donor grant for the sheriff's youth fund one. Of several strings Elias had pulled to get access to the evidence room, you've got 10 minutes, Holt muttered, unlocking the door with a heavy sigh. I don't know what you expect to find? Elias didn't answer. Inside, the evidence locker was dim and stale. Rows of cardboard boxes lined rusted shelves, each labeled with thin marker strokes. Holt pointed to one near the bottom. Ransom, Malik, that's it. Just his personal effects. Elias crouched. The box was lighter than he expected. Inside, a phone cracked through the middle. A wallet with $3 and a school ID, and a pair of sneakers once bright red, now dulled, their soles blackened, as if scorched. Daw. The laces were stiff, stained, dark at the base. Blood. Elias stared. None of this had been mentioned in the sheriff's report. Was there fire damage at the swamp? He asked without looking up. No, Holt said flatly. That's all that came in. A pause. Then Elias stood, closed the box gently, and walked past the deputy without another word. Later that night, Leah sat alone in his rental car, parked just outside town. The box sat on the seat beside him, like a silent passenger. Leah made the call he'd been putting off. Mira, it's Elias. I have something for you. Mira Voss was an investigative journalist with a sharp mind and a sharper pen. She'd broken 3 corruption cases in the past 5 years, and made powerful enemies each time. 2 hours later, she met him at a gas station outside Atlanta when she saw the contents of the box. Her expression didn't change, but her silence deepened. I'll have something by morning, she said. The headline broke by noon. New evidence in teen's death raises. Questions about police negligence in Georgia County. Photos of Malik's burned sneakers ran alongside statements from anonymous sources and leaked documents. A snippet of Malik's autopsy acquired by Moraire. Unexplained lacerations inconsistent with drowning. That night, the story made the evening news. Cable anchors debated racial disparity in death investigations. Twitter lit up. Hashtags trended. Civil rights groups called for an independent probe. In Branscombe, sheriff stood at a podium, face flushed. These rumors are dangerous. We've followed all proper procedures. The public should remain calm. But the public was no longer calm. In Nia Ransom? She watched from her living room couch, hands folded in her lap, tears on her cheek, but not from grief this time, from rage and the beginning of something that sounded a lot like hope. The storm didn't wait for permission. By Monday morning, Branscombe's sidewalks were jammed with people. Some held signs, others held silence. One boy wore a t-shirt with Malik's face printed over the words, "Say his name." The courthouse lawn became a floodplain of fury black, brown, and white residents all tangled together, demanding answers. Across the street, a different crowd gathered, arms folded. Jaws tight, flags waving with unspoken messages. Respect. Law and order, protect our town. Someone held a sign that read, "This ain't about race." Police lined the middle like a brittle spine. Rain began to fall in sheets, but no one moved. The town, once a still frame, was now a slow explosion. Nia watched from her front window, unsure if stepping outside would make her a leader or a target. The night before, someone had left a note in her mailbox, scrawled in red marker, "You made this mess. Bury it." She didn't tell Elias, or Liza, not even Rachel Spence, who had started checking in daily instead. She clutched Malik's old hoodie-like armor and walked into town. By late afternoon, the crowd had swelled. "People," chanted. Someone threw a bottle. Police pushed forward. Tear gas canister hissed. Screams scattered into the wet air, and then something shifted. A girl with cornrows climbed onto a bench and shouted, "I was there that day. I saw them follow Malik." She pulled out her phone. Shaky hands, wide eyes, the screen lit up. Elias nearby elbowed through the crowd. So did a local news cameraman, already rolling. The footage was rough, jittery, wind-blown, but clear enough. Malik stood outside the corner store, backpack slung over one shoulder. Two older white men in civilian clothes approached. One flashed. A badged-up Malik backed up. "Why are you doing this?" he shouted, voice rising above the crackling audio. "I didn't do anything." They moved in anyway. One grabbed his arm. Malik twisted away, stumbling, then the video cut out. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then boiling silence. Someone whispered, "That's Officer Tills. He's off duty." A brick shattered a storefront window, the line between protest and chaos. Disappeared. Rain turned the sidewalks into rivers. Sirens wailed, screams rose. But at the center of the storm, Nia stood still, drenched to the skin, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. Beside her, Elias stared at the girl's phone, jaw tight. "They tried to erase him," Nia said. "Now the world sees him," Elias replied. From somewhere behind them, a protester's voice cracked through the thunder. "Open the grave." The crowd gathered before sunrise. News vans lined the cemetery gates, headlights casting long, anxious shadows across the wet grass. Protesters stood shoulder to shoulder with reporters and quiet onlookers, some driven by grief, others by spectacle. A judge's emergency order had finally forced the county's hand. Malik Ransom's grave would be opened. Nia stood a few feet. From the burial site, Elias on one side, Rachel Spence on the other. Her breath came in short, controlled bursts. Her son's name was etched in stone before her, but her heart beat with something more defiant than sorrow. To county workers, in stained coveralls, approached the grave with shovels and a mechanized lift. One of them paused. "You sure you want to do this?" Nia didn't look at him. "I've always wanted to do this." The casket rose slow from the earth, its wood dark with moisture. Cameras clicked in a frenzy. Lenses zoomed in. The sheriff, flanked by two deputies, stood off to the side. Jaw tight. Liza held her phone up, recording everything. The lock creaked as it gave way, and then the lid lifted. Empty. No body. No clothing. No signs of decay. It's just a clean white interior, untouched. Gasps tore through the crowd like a rip in the sky. A cameraman cursed under his breath. A woman screamed. Nia stared. Her knees buckled, but she didn't fall. Elias caught her arm, steadying her. Her face was pale, but her eyes blazed. "I told you," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but didn't break. "I told you he wasn't in there." Reporters surged forward. The sheriff barked orders. Someone tried to cover the casket, but the damage was done. Liza pushed through the chaos, phone still recording. "They buried an empty box," she said to no one and everyone. "Where's the body?" Rachel gripped Nia's hand, stunned. "If he's not there?" Nia shook her head, tears hot on her cheeks. Then he's somewhere. And they've been lying this whole damn time. Sirens echoed in the distance, another unit on its way. Too late for control. And in the middle of it all, Mother stood over the hole where her son was supposed to be. But Malik Ransom was not. In that grave, the call came at 2:13 a.m. Liz's voice on the other end was breathless. They found him. Elias. They found him. Elias sat up in the motel bed, disoriented. What are you talking about, Malik? He's alive. The next words were a blur. A raid on an abandoned property outside Selma, Alabama. Missing persons. Task force acting on an anonymous tip. They found a barn hidden deep in the woods. Inside 3 cots, a generator, surveillance monitors, and Malik, chained, starved, but breathing. Elias didn't wait. He called Nia, then chartered a jet. It was still dark when they arrived at the medical center. Concrete building, glowing sterile under floodlights. Nia didn't speak as they walked through the halls. She didn't cry. Her body moved on instinct alone, like every step pulled. Her closer to air after drowning, they stopped outside the ICU room. Through the glass, a boy barely recognizable. Gaunt cheeks, hollow eyes, IVs in his arms. But it was him. It was Malik. She opened the door. He looked up slowly. One eye was swollen, his lips cracked. But the second he saw her name came out like ash, and she crumbled. She ran too. Him, arms wrapping around him with a gentleness that shook her bones. Malik winced in pain, but didn't pull away. His head dropped to her shoulder. I knew you'd come, he whispered. I kept saying it. She kissed his forehead again and again. You were never gone, she said. They just tried to bury you. Doctors pulled her away gently to check his vitals. Elias stood just outside, his fists clenched, breath shaky. Nia stepped into the hallway, her voice low but firm. What happened? Liza appeared beside them, holding a folder. We're piecing it together. Malik was mistaken for a suspect in a robbery upstate some kid named Terrell King. They didn't want to admit they got the wrong person, so they kidnapped him. Elias asked. Rogue officers. Off-duty, operating under the radar. Turns. Out one of them's Sheriff Camden's cousin. Lisa opened the folder. Inside, a death certificate, now nullified. A falsified report. A mugshot of the boy they buried in Malik's place. Not Malik. Another young black man, still unidentified. They swapped him, Liza said softly. Buried someone else. And hoped no one would look too hard. Branscombe never recovered. The sheriff was arrested. 4 officers indicted. State and federal charges followed. Journalists flooded the county. Lawsuits stacked like sandbags. But the people changed. The silence was gone. Vigils lit. Up every corner, marches crossed bridges and highways. Teenagers carried signs that read, Justice was buried. We dug it out. And Malik. He stayed quiet for weeks. Recovery was slow, emotionally brutal. He barely spoke. Flinched at loud sounds, but every day, Nia sat at his side, reading old sketches from his notebook, whispering memories, playing the beats he used to love. One evening, he took her hand. Can I see the stars? I asked. She wheeled him out into the hospital courtyard, wrapped him in a blanket for the first time in months. He looked up. They never took that away, he murmured. No, she whispered. And they never took you either. When Elias visited, Malik offered a faint smile. You rich, right? Elias chuckled, surprised. I try to be. Think Nikel'll still want me? I think Elias said. They'll want you even. More. A few months later, Malik walked onto a stage at a town hall meeting, his story now public. His voice trembled, but he spoke. They tried to disappear me, tried to make me just another black boy who vanished. Oh, but I'm still here. And I'm going to design the shoes I was wearing the day they tried to erase me. Burn marks and all. Applause. Tears, hope, final narration. They tried to bury him, but we planted truth instead. And truth grows louder than silence.